Good afternoon, I'm Lorne MacLean of the MacLean Family Law Group, and welcome to installment number 6 of Smart BC Divorce Tips. Today's topic is winning spousal support. And what I want to tell you first of all is I see all too many mistakes being made by people who bargain away their spousal support or end up paying far too much because they didn't go and see a lawyer first. In Canada, spousal support is covered by what we call the Federal Spousal Support Advisory Guidelines. They're an average of past cases to help us agree on what the amount should be, and second of all, for how long support should be paid. Support is based on 3 principles. Number 1, contractual. So if you've got a separation agreement or a marriage agreement that sets the amount of support and the duration, it will be an important factor for the court to look at. Second of all, compensation. We understand in Canada that spouses may give up their career to look after children, to move with a spouse, for example, to further their career, and they may give up educational and work opportunities. And at the end of a marriage, they're entitled to be compensated for what they gave up by way of spousal support. Second of all, I want you to think of Robin Hood. We take from the rich, we give to the poor. That's called non-compensatory support. That's where someone has money and the other person has need, and the court will make that person pay so that that person is not hard done by economically. Now, we have 2 sets of calculations for spousal support. One is called the with-child formula. It's a little more complex, and I'll get into that in a minute. The second one that's a little bit simpler is called the without-child formula. And it multiplies the years of marriage times 1.5 to 2% of the difference in incomes. So in a short marriage, you will get a short payment of support, and it will be relatively nominal. However, in a long marriage, you will very well approach an equal sharing of incomes, and the principle is basically the longer the marriage, the greater the presumption of equal standards of living at the end of that marriage. Now, let's deal with the second and somewhat more complex formula. You'll need to come to our offices, and we'll run a computer program for you using what is called DivorceMate software. It's called the with-child formula. In that case, if you're a spouse that's receiving spousal support and you have custody of children, you will have somewhere between 50 and 60% of the parties' combined net incomes. Now, some people say that's outrageous. How will the payor live? And the simple answer is it costs more to raise 2 or 3 people and support them than it does for one. So when you look at it that way, it is a little more fair, obviously. Now, support is based on the income of each spouse. And so one of the biggest disputed areas we see in our practice of high net worth BC divorce is setting the accurate and correct income of spouses. For example, you cannot have a paying spouse who's bitter, quitting his job, or working half-time to try to pay less support. Conversely, you can't have a disgruntled former spouse that's receiving support, refusing to retrain or look for work to try to maximize. So both parties have to work to their capacity, looking at their educational, their skills, and their work history. We call that attributing income in cases where someone's working less than to their full capacity. Now, the guidelines also deal with how long support should be paid. So in the without child formula, it's based on a half a year to a full year for each year of the relationship. You don't have to be married. This can apply to marriage-like relationships as well. So remember, a half a year to a full year of the relationship. So in a 10-year situation, the payment range might be 5 years at the low end to 10 years at the high end. Now, if you have children, though, you might be married, for example, for 1 year. Normally that might result in a 6-month to a 1-year payment if you didn't have children. But with children, the duration might last as long as it takes for that youngest child to graduate from high school. So it can result in a dramatically longer period of payment. And when you think about it, the person that has custody of the child is going to have to forego career opportunities to look after that child. They may not be able to take that trip out of town to get the promotion because they're saddled with childcare. So the obligation might last until the youngest child of the marriage is out of high school. Now, one of the other contentious issues we deal with is what happens in a shared custody and a split custody situation. In those cases, credit is given for the direct cost to the parent who is raising the children. So if you have your children half of the time, that does save costs to the other parent, and conversely your costs will be increased, and it's only fair that you get credit for that. No one is saving any money on a shared custody situation. I hear that all the time when I'm asking for it on behalf of my male clients. He's simply paying the same amount, but directly. Lastly, one of the hottest and most contentious issues I deal with are the remarriage or repartnering issues. It would surprise most people to know that by simply becoming married again, support does not stop. We'll take a look at how the support was originally awarded. If it was based on the compensatory principles for giving up a career, for giving up education, for moving and giving up work, then the support will not end. If it's based on the Robin Hood theory, which I was telling you about earlier, on need and ability to pay, that support might end because your need will be reduced. So I've packed a lot of information into this video clip, and obviously you're going to have a lot more questions. Feel free to call us at 604-602-9000. Go to our website at bcfamilylaw.ca. Go to our Facebook page and get your simple questions answered for free. And follow us, of course, on Twitter. I'm Lorne MacLean, and thanks for listening to Smart BC Divorce Tips number 6, Winning Spousal Support.